This is not a normal behind-the-scenes sports video. 3 basketball games, 1 premier international tournament, and a full week on the road. Private jets, film sessions, team dinners, and everything in between. I'm documenting the moments you never see from start to finish. Colorado State men's basketball battle for Atlantis. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Jaron Fritz, aka FrizzyVisuals. I'm the creative director for Colorado State Athletics with multiple years of professional sports and photography experience. And today, I'm breaking down exactly how I approach covering a high-level basketball tournament, from the gear I bring to how I shoot each game differently to how I decide what moments actually matter. You will see the highlights and lowlights that take you behind the scenes, so if you care about sports photography, creative storytelling, or what it really takes to work at this level, this video is the full process. And I make videos like this every single week, so make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any exclusive content. This trip is 6 days long, and every single day is its own chapter. Chapter 1 starts at Moby Arena, loading the buses and heading straight to the Loveland Airport. And because we are flying private, the usual bus photos do not apply here, so I am saving my camera for the tarmac. And we have our first shot of the day. After we grabbed the group photo, I wanted to switch things up, so I moved around and started hunting for angles that let me bring the plane into frame. I love this shot of JoJo. You already know I had to get Coach Shelton right too. After I grabbed the last shot of John, I knew I had my money shots locked in, so I finished by grabbing candid moments as the remaining players and coaches boarded the plane. With travel photos complete, I boarded the plane for a 5-hour flight to Nassau, Bahamas, home of the Battle for Atlantis tournament. Now, the Battle for Atlantis is one of the premier early season tournaments in all of college basketball. Every year it brings together top programs, NBA talent, and national attention, all on a neutral stage halfway across the world. So during the flight, there was no downtime. I was editing the travel photos you just saw, finishing edits from the NBA game the night before, and watching the sun set over the ocean. After signing my papers and convincing the government officials I am not a threat to national security, we touched down in a much warmer climate than Fort Collins and headed straight for our charter ride. Normally a charter ride means one big bus, but instead we were met with a fleet of smaller vans. It definitely threw me off for a second, but we just rolled with it and marched right on. After a very rocky ride paired with a generous amount of honking from our driver, we finally pulled up to Atlantis Paradise Island Resort. This was not just where we were sleeping, this is where we would practice, play the tournament, and eat every single meal. For the entire week, this became our home base. And this place has some stuff I was not expecting at all. Massive aquariums, water slides with sharks, and so much more. But I'm saving all of that for later in the video because right now, it's time to roll into day number 2. Gotta start out the day with a hotel room view check. Pretty decent. We have a long day ahead with practice, an off-site basketball clinic, and a high-end team dinner, so before all that, we headed to the team room to start the day with some breakfast. If you have never traveled with a D1 team before, there is always one room that serves as our central hub called the team room. That is where we eat, watch film, store gear, and anything in between. Usually the team room is just on the main floor of the hotel, but here in Atlantis, it was quite a trek to get there through a casino, shopping centers, and even a dolphin water fountain. After a buffet breakfast highlighted by canned fruit juice with an ungodly amount of processed sugar, we watched some film on Virginia Tech and headed to the practice facility, which is held in a ballroom of the hotel. Now, the lighting may look decent on my camera right now, but in real life, it was horrible. As you can see on screen, I was shooting at an aperture of 1.4, which usually allows me to spike my shutter, but it was so dark, it was like I was shooting on a 2.8 lens. Which was honestly terrifying once I put on the white mamba because I was shooting at settings you would normally use for engagement photos, not live sports. So instead of fighting it, I slowed everything down, locked my hands in, and turned the situation into portraits instead of blurry action shots. After surviving a shoot-around in what felt like the darkest gym known to mankind, we headed back to the team room for some lunch. That was the reset before the main event of the day, heading to a local primary school to put on a basketball clinic for the youth of the Bahamas. If you told me a couple years ago I would be in the Bahamas shooting photo and video at a youth basketball clinic, I would have assumed I was on the run for something. But instead, this is just part of my job, which is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Pulling up, we could immediately tell the kids were excited to see us. That energy was extremely fun, so I threw on the 35mm right away to grab wide shots of our guys interacting with them and soaking in the moment. I love this shot of Brandon. I think the kids were trying to figure out who on our team was 6'7" here. Now, my goal covering this event is not just general coverage, it is showing our guys having fun in a completely different environment. Shots like Rashawn smiling and laughing, or John cheering everyone on. Those are the moments that actually make this event feel real and memorable to our fans back home. And you always gotta love Coach Ali giving these young girls the business. In between laughing with the kids, our guys were running them through random drills while also stopping to knock out interviews with local TV stations. It was all over the place from the jump, and honestly, the chaos is exactly what made it so fun to capture.
Family on three. 1, 2, 3.
My favorite moment came after our team photo and breakdown. The clinic was officially over, but we stayed to sign autographs for every single kid. That is a photographer's dream. While I was rolling video, I was also sneaking in photos to grab those real genuine moments. And from a photography perspective, I love both shots of Kara getting swarmed. Shot of the day contenders. After a very eventful morning and afternoon, we had some scheduled downtime, which for me really means I finally get to edit some photos. So as soon as we got back to the hotel, I locked in and edited photos until it was time to head back out for dinner. And one thing about me is I love me some good Italian food, so I was pretty fired up walking past a lineup of yachts on the way to a team dinner at the nicest Italian restaurant in all of the Bahamas. At least, that's what our waiter claimed it to be, but after a 5-course meal, I have zero reason to argue with him. So far, it has been private jets, a basketball practice in a ballroom, and a youth clinic in the Bahamas, and we still have 4 days and 3 games to capture. So day 3 is where we start to ramp up the basketball content while also sneaking in some time at the beach. The best of both worlds. Up until now, we had not touched the actual court. Everything had been in a ballroom. Today changes that. Media interviews, 1 hour on the real court, then back to the ballroom after. This is the moment the tournament really starts to feel real, but first, a little team breakfast, uploading 2 days worth of photos, then heading straight to the media room to capture the interviews. When you're playing in premier settings like holiday tournaments, March Madness, or anything custom branding like Battle for Atlantis, it is huge to capture the backdrop as part of your imagery. That media backdrop and microphone do 2 things. They instantly add credibility and they signal to fans that you are here, locked in, and ready to roll.
They have a different level of confidence. Their chest is puffed out a little more.
And as you can see, the logos are looking really clean in the background, adding a subtle but important layer to the shot. After I made sure to get each guy a shot, I headed back to the team room where P Money, our head manager, was trying to get lethal in Lightroom before practice. After Parker absolutely wrecked my Lightroom settings, we finally headed out to see the famous Battle for Atlantis court. My first reaction was pure shock at how insanely blue the lighting was. You cannot really tell from this camera, but this quick clip I grabbed from my GoPro during one of our games shows the true color way better. This is exactly what the arena looks like to the naked eye if you do not dial in a custom white balance and camera. But since we are just a group of professionals over here in FrizzyVisuals land, I custom white balanced every camera sensor I was using for the whole trip. And I could especially tell from the very first shot of the day that even though this gym was crazy blue, the lighting itself was actually going to be incredible to work with. Yeah, that is way better lighting than we had in the ballroom. Now that we were in the actual arena we would be playing in, there was Battle for Atlantis branding everywhere. And that branding is not just a decoration, it is storytelling fuel. And so I set out to work in as many frames as possible. I have a feeling this flag will become a central theme all weekend. This might seem like a no-brain image to take, but I love how this one turned out with our logo in the background. I also went up top to frame the big Battle for Atlantis logo in the background. It turned out solid, but this next shot is absolutely a shot of the day contender. This shot includes the Battle for Atlantis logo in the lower third, all tournament team logos featured in the background under a spotlight, and a sharply focused subject in the foreground. Just beautiful on so many different levels. After capturing everything I needed for social, I could have just packed it up. Instead, I stayed and kept shooting for the guys, and some of those extra frames ended up being just as good as the first. And you know it's not a real travel video without the classic wide-angle arena shot, even if this one has a lot fewer seats than usual. At the end of the day, there was no way I was coming to the Bahamas and not touching the ocean. So after an early practice, I took a break from the basketball court and stepped outside to show you exactly where we are and why this trip is a little bit different, because after this, we are diving straight into 3 fully covered behind-the-scenes basketball games. So let's start with the hotel. You have to remember, this is the Battle for Atlantis, so Greek mythology is baked into everything here. It hits you immediately. You pull up and are greeted by this massive fountain with Pegasus flying straight through it. You walk inside and get slammed with this huge rotunda that instantly tells you this is not a normal hotel. Then you go down this staircase and it gets ridiculous. One of the biggest aquariums I have ever seen. Not one tank, but woven through underground tunnels with this guy absolutely posted up like he lives here. Oh wait, he does. Out back there are water slides launching you out of ancient temple ruins straight through shark-filled waters. I did not participate, respectfully. And all around the resort there are man-made pools, palm trees, people everywhere. Then you cross one small bridge and suddenly you are standing on the sand with the ocean right in front of you. All of that is cool, but my favorite spot was actually closer to the resort. There are ponds with sharks casually swimming around, and at the same time, you get one of the best views of the entire resort, and it is pretty crazy to realize that all of this came from simply knowing when to press the shutter. So yeah, this place is unreal. Sharks, temples, aquariums, beaches, not exactly your standard road trip, but all of that is just the setting. Up until now, everything you have seen has been set up. Travel, practice, meals, and now that the scene is fully set, we turn the page from day 3 and head straight into day 4, our first game day of the tournament. Day 4 starts all business, elevator ride straight down to Imperial Arena. But before tip-off, we are linking up with Colorado State fans who traveled all the way from Colorado for a meetup right near the arena. CSU travels well, always so, making sure to capture that for our socials. After grabbing photos with our fans and meeting a bunch of the players' parents, the next stop was picking up credentials in the media workroom. This space is basically mission control, bracket info, food and drink, and a full workspace, which Ryan is demonstrating perfectly as he is scrambling to update the website while we are announcing our new football coach. Just past the media workroom is the Battle for Atlantis Hall of Champions, showcasing every previous winner of the tournament, starting with Harvard in 2011, all the way through Oklahoma in 2024. Inside Imperial Arena, the stage is officially set, so it is time to switch from the BTS camera to the on-camera GoPro because we have finally arrived at our first matchup of the tournament. And we have our first shot of the day. My goal during warm-ups was to spread the love while also locking in on individual portraits to really set the scene that the boys were in Atlantis. This was also a unique matchup with Virginia Tech because our starting point guard Brandon transferred from there last year, so in a way, it turned into a bit of a revenge game. And yeah, I love this shot of him. Familiarity with a team's pregame rituals allows you to anticipate and capture authentic moments just like this. There is an unspoken rule in basketball photography: you always sneak in pregame bounce shots. After locking in some solid warm-up shots, it was time to test the waters and see what our starting five was going to look like. Right off the rip, there was this heavy blue lighting hitting our guys that looked awesome on camera, which I knew was something I needed to lean into and experiment with over the next 2 games. But for now, I am in my trusty reliable spot right behind JoJo as the guys come through. Compared to past games shooting the starting 5, my hit rate this game was honestly way higher. I liked almost every frame that came out of it. But this one of Jevin really stood out. With warm-ups out of the way, it was time for some real game action, and there is no better way to kick that off than with a Kerry Booth dunk. And somehow, the very next play topped it even further. And that was some serious bounce from the big fella, and I couldn't be happier with how these photos turned out. And if that wasn't enough mayhem already, this was the play right after the previous 2 dunks. Josh literally jumped out of his shoes on that dunk. When you watch the replay, I still don't know how he pulled it off. And of course, that was the exact moment I was switching to the White Mamba, so I completely missed the photo. Pain level 100. What I didn't miss was this 3-point celebration by Kerry as he talks some mess to Virginia Tech's bench. We are so back. There was something about the light show in the crowd mixed with both teams' jerseys that just made the color look good. For game 1, I also used the first half as a test run for layering the flags into my backgrounds. These shots worked, but in the editing process, I could already see ways to push the edit even further and make it stronger for the next 2 games. Another great sequence from the first half came with these 2 shots of JoJo. The first is calm and composed from the top of the key. The second is the complete opposite, a tough and one bucket with a flex that says everything you need to know. A lot of great images came out of the first half, but on the scoreboard, it was a different story. We headed into the locker room down 33-26 after a low-scoring half, knowing we needed a big response. Since starting out right in the second half is a program initiative, I threw on the 35mm to start and got these great-looking shots of Kyle in the post. Part of my job in the second half is making sure I grab clean horizontal frames for post-game stories and website use, so I flipped the camera back to its normal orientation and started hunting for those shots. The benefit of doing that in the second half is it gives me time to read the game. Usually your post-game story is built around good performing players, so this allows me time to see who I need to catch. But in a game like this, there was no real standout, so I was just making sure to get a little bit of everything. And since I was already up in the stands shooting, I decided to stay put and see what else this angle could offer. When you are shooting 3 games in 3 days, you have to be intentional about not repeating yourself, so I leaned into this angle and made sure to grab a few frames here to help differentiate this game from others. The game slowed to a crawl and suddenly everything came down to one possession, down to with the ball in our hands.
Rams gotta go. Pasquarelli with 3 for 3. No,
but it did not drop, ending our night with a first round loss to Virginia Tech, but just our second loss on the season. Being a team photographer during a loss is really tough. You try to be as respectful as possible while also documenting the moment, but this game I decided to give our guys some space. And instead of sticking around, I went back to the hotel room, edited as much as that game as I could, dumped all my Osmo and GoPro footage, and reset every card because the trip was far from being over. Day number 5 was next, and we had Wichita State waiting for us. With an 8 p.m. tip against Wichita State, I had time to finish the Virginia Tech gallery and, more importantly, actually review it. This is something a lot of photographers skip, and it matters. Once a gallery is done, I go back through and take notes, what worked and what was missing. Looking at what I did well yesterday helped me build a clear game plan for game 2 today. I wanted more coach shots, a different starting 5 angle, way more timeout portraits, and I committed to shooting from the opposite side of the court to give the gallery a completely new look. This kind of methodical approach might sound boring when you're talking about an art form like photography, but if you want to operate at the highest level, strategy must exist alongside creativity. So with all that being said, we have some clear goals in mind. Let's hop back in the elevator and head to Imperial Arena. Don't mind the tripod I am carrying around this time. I used it to film the radio broadcast intro for our Rams Live pregame show back home, and honestly, it turned out way better than I expected. Game 2 takes us through a hidden tunnel entrance, and this is where you really see how blue the arena lighting actually is when you do not adjust your camera for it. Since one of my main goals for this game was more coach coverage, I wasted no time and started there immediately. Coach Dave looking like a true professional here. Action shots are usually hard to get of coaches, but Coach Shelton always has a tendency to get right. When it came to the starting 5s, my shots from the front of the tunnel were so strong in game 1 that I wanted to flip the perspective this time, so I threw on the 35 and worked from behind the line to see how different I could make it feel. An unexpected great shot of Coach DeWeese. I was really hoping those spotlights would hit our guys in a cool way as they came out, and of course they did. Shot of the day contender, and we haven't even tipped off yet. At the very last second, I racked focus from Kyle to Jevin, and I'm really glad I trusted that instinct. We came into this game wanting a completely new perspective on intros, and I am not mad at it at all. We are 2 for 2, and I absolutely love how the starting 5 shots look from back here. Starting out this game, seemingly how we start every game, a carry booth dunk. This is a trend I would love to see continue. And as if the basketball gods were listening, the very first play after I switched to the opposite side of the court was another carry booth dunk. Perfect timing, 0 complaints. Shooting from the defensive side down the court introduced a new perspective and definitely reduced the reliance on standard under the basket angles. You can never pass up a good team huddle photo either. And sitting right by the bench area allowed me to snag more timeout portraits. Not trying to make this into a Carey Booth fan video, but I love this shot of him. When you switch ends, you start to see interactions you would normally miss if you only stay on the offensive side. For example, this was actually one of my first photos all year from this specific angle of a coach-player bench interaction. I really love how dark the background is in these frames. Normally, you would have a crowd back there, but the darkness isolates the player and makes them stand out so much more. And that applies to this picture of Ali as well. Before I switched back to the offensive side of the ball, I was hunting for a good defensive picture at the rim, and this one fell right into my lap. I am not showing it because it's some all-time photo. I'm showing it because of how in the world is that a foul? Drop your call in the comment section below. This would normally be a solid point guard dribble up photo in almost any other game, but with Jevin framed against that massive Battle for Atlantis logo in the background, it really demonstrates the importance of framing. I got so locked into chasing different angles that I looked up and suddenly we were up 17 going into halftime, which was huge because we had already checked off a lot of my shot list early. So heading into the second half, my focus shifted into grabbing more portraits, locking in on horizontal frames, and of course, continuing to cover the game itself. Starting off in the second with some necessary horizontal frames, always gotta catch some action in there. I don't typically prioritize horizontals for huddles or portraits, but the results here were definitely worth repeating. Once I felt good about the horizontal frames, I threw the 35 back on just in time to catch 2 massive plays. And to absolutely nobody's surprise, the first one was yet another Carey Booth poster. And the second play did not look crazy on video because Kyle got absolutely robbed, but if you only saw the photos, you would think that man is flying. Since we were up big, I closed out the game focusing on portraits, and I was really happy with how those turned out across the board. And because we got the win, I did not call it a night there. I followed the team into the locker room to grab any celebration moments that would come my way. I got a couple of the guys celebrating, but the only worthy one to make it in this video was this shot of Ali smiling with his guys. Since we pulled out the win, there was a post-game press conference to cover, and when Ali's son decided to jump in on the fun, I slid in to grab a few photos. He also delivered an all-time answer.
So it's Thanksgiving, we got one for you. What are you thankful for?
Turkey.
I'll follow up with that one. What's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
I already said turkey.
All right, thanks, Liam.
Our SID Ryan's weak line of questioning got him dunked on by Liam, which was somehow the first moment all day I realized that it was actually Thanksgiving. So back in the team room, I had to grab a couple of photos of Liam getting that turkey he was talking about earlier. 2 games down, 1 left to go on our final day in Atlantis, and a chance to leave here 2-1 against a tough USF team in the morning of day number 6. If you've made it this far in the video, you are a real fan of the craft and you actually care what it takes to work behind the scenes in D1 sports. And honestly, I am the same way, not just with sports creative, but with basketball in general. So on championship day, I took my laptop down to the media tables, edited photos, and watch some high-level hoops. Vandy ended up taking home the tournament win after defeating St. Mary's. However, there were a lot of missed threes, which I was worried about for our game, so I went out there to personally confirm the rims were regulation. They were, because you know I'm nothing but butter. Jokes aside, after reviewing the last 2 games, I felt like I did a really solid job at creating variety. The only things left on my list was unlocking a tunnel run-out shot from our day 3 entrance and pushing even further into the defensive end of the ball to see if I could get a staple shot from behind. So without wasting any time, I scoped out the tunnel shot using my super wide 16mm lens as the team was getting ready to take the floor. Not only was that the first shot of the day, it immediately became a shot of the day contender. The heavy silhouettes of the players, all the logos overheads, and the green light flaring straight into the lens lined up much better than I could have ever planned. And since that first 16mm shot hit so well, I decided to stay on it for a bit and see what else I could pull. Even though it was the same angle as yesterday, the 16mm gave it a new perspective. Since my focus was shooting from the defensive end of the court, I spent about 5 minutes on the offensive side of the thing, speed running clean, reliable shots for in-game social updates. Those are the safest and quickest looks when solo shooting, so I knocked them out first and freed myself up to experiment with the next 15 minutes. Right after I switched ends, it finally happened. I got my money shot with the flag. Kyle's emotion in the foreground, the flag perfectly positioned and lit behind him, everything lined up so perfectly. An underrated part about shooting from the defensive side is being able to see the names on the back of the jerseys. I even really like this one of Jevin and Coach. We have seen a lot of dunks in this tournament, but I genuinely could not imagine a better spot in the entire arena to capture this sequence right here. The definition of dunking on someone's head. I knew these were going to be shot of the day contenders. After the first half, we had a large lead, so the second half was all about standard coverage, and for the sake of this video, nothing really changed compared to the first two games in terms of where I was shooting or how I was positioned. We ended the night with an easy win, which put us at 2-1 and made this a really strong first run at a historic tournament. And the second that final buzzer hit, I knew I had to get to the locker room because capturing these moments matter. Especially this shot of Jevin getting love after his 10-assist game.
Hey, now you got all your assists, career high assists.
Wow.
This is exactly why you never pack up your camera early. And just like that, 3 games and 6 full days in Atlantis has come to a close, which was one of the best trips ever, so thanks for tagging along with me. And this video marks 1 full year of making content on YouTube, so make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming content, because this year is going to be a big one. Until next time.